pocket for the Helmar cigarette box Max had given her half an hour ago, along with a cuff to the back of her head. "Don't you go dragging your feet like last time," he'd said. "I can't afford to lose business." "It was raining. Lionel ain't gonna ditch you." "It's not raining today. Go." He raised his hand in warning. She darted out of the dressing room and heard him laughing behind her. "Run, rabbit, run!" She spat on the pavement, kicking at a squashed stogie, spun on her heel, and headed for the exit gate. When she glanced back over her shoulder, the dingbatty little man was gone. Chapter 3. Max always gave her fare to the movie studio or the other places where she delivered hashish cigarettes and dope, though only enough for one way. She never stopped asking him for the nickel, even though that risked getting smacked. "What about the fare home?" She sat in his dressing room, a makeshift shack even smaller than the one where she lived with her mother, tossing her cap into the air as she watched him get ready for work. "Just another nickel. You got plenty." "The hell I do. Tell Lionel to give it to you." "That's his end of the deal, not mine." Max leaned into his makeup mirror, drew a comma in black coal along one eyelid. "You're too lazy to work, boy. I'll find someone else." Before she could duck, he grabbed the cap from her hand and tossed it toward the back of the room, where it fell beneath the cracked window. Pin retrieved the cap, then stepped to an overturned barrel that served as a chair. Scattered photographs lay atop it, old French postcards that showed the same young woman, dark-haired and wearing a black schoolgirl's uniform. Her waist was grotesquely small, tightly corseted beneath the uniform. Corsets were going out of fashion. These pictures had to be at least 10 years old. Looking at them made Pin feel slightly sick. The woman's tiny waist made it look as though she'd been cut in two, the halves of her body held together by a strip of black ribbon. If you pulled at it, she'd fall apart. Pin quickly gathered the photos and shoved them onto a shelf covered with similar photographs, then settled on top of the barrel to gaze, mesmerized, over Max's shoulder into the mirror. She'd never known a guy who wore makeup. She'd heard of fairies, of course. Ike and the other boys in the park sometimes pointed them out to her at night. To Pin, they looked like ordinary men. A few were dudes, flashy dressers who wore spats and striped waistcoats and nice shoes. But she'd seen plenty of dudes fondling women in the dark rides. Some fairies looked like workmen, others businessmen. Some might be with their wives, or even children. "How can fairies have kids?" she'd asked Ike. He shrugged. "Hell if I know." Once in the Comique, the park's movie arcade, she'd seen a pair of young men standing together in front of a mutoscope, dressed like they were headed for a dance hall. The men took turns peering into the viewer, and for a fraction of a second their fingers had touched, deliberately, one finger caressing the other before the hand was withdrawn. The sight had filled her with an emotion she'd never felt before, a cold flash, neither dread nor fear, yet partaking of both, along with a pulse of exhilaration, as though she sat in the first car of the velvet coaster as it began its plunge down the tracks. Max wasn't a dude, or a fairy as far as Pin could tell. She followed him sometimes around the park, always careful to keep a safe distance, half hoping and half fearful that she might see some proof that he was something. Some look or touch, a foray into the fairyland woods and picnic ground where men were rumored to meet. She never did. Other than the occasional knock to the head, he never laid hands on her. Off stage, he wore shirt sleeves, no cuffs or celluloid collar, and plain dark trousers, indifferently pressed. He had vivid yellow-green eyes, the color of uranium glass. He dyed his hair blonde, but that was for the act, like the makeup he painstakingly applied before his first performance and touched up during the day. His mustache, too, was fake, and only half a mustache. He was Max and Maxine, the she-male, half man and half woman, appearing at irregular...